virgin cleaner accidentally fell in love with billionaire CEO after one night of passion. Please, let's begin this beautiful story in the heart of New York City, where steel giants touched the clouds and fortunes were made and lost with the tick of a clock. Two people existed in parallel universes that were never meant to intersect. Sophia Lane's alarm jolted her awake at 4:30 a.m. every morning. Her tiny apartment in the less desirable part of the city barely fit a bed and dresser, but it was hers, paid for with honest work and stubborn determination. At 22, she carried herself with a quiet dignity that belied her circumstances. Her hands, though roughened by cleaning chemicals, moved with grace, whether scrubbing floors or sketching dreams in her worn notebook. "Another day, another dollar," she whispered to herself, pinning her thick chestnut hair into a tight bun before donning the plain gray uniform of Crystal Clear Cleaning Services. The company contracted with dozens of Manhattan's most prestigious buildings, including the gleaming Blackwell Tower, home to one of the city's most powerful corporations. Life had never given Sophia handouts. Abandoned by her mother at 12 and shuffled through foster homes until aging out of the system, she learned early that survival required both grit and invisibility. The invisible rarely faced disappointment. They expected nothing and thus could lose nothing. Yet beneath her practical exterior burned ambitions that refused to die. Dreams of college, of creating art, of building a life defined by more than merely surviving. "You're wasting your time with those drawings," her supervisor had once commented, catching her sketching during lunch. "People like us don't become artists. We clean up after the people who do." Those words followed her through endless hours of scrubbing, dusting, and polishing. They echoed in her mind as she moved silently through executive offices after hours, studying the certificates on walls, the family photos, the evidence of lives built on opportunity rather than necessity. Despite the attention her striking beauty attracted, full lips, almond-shaped eyes, and curves that her uniform couldn't fully hide, Sophia remained untouched. Not from lack of opportunity, but from choice. She had seen too many girls from her neighborhood give themselves to men who took what they wanted and left nothing behind. She had promised herself that when she finally gave herself to someone, it would be on her terms, with someone who truly saw her. 40 floors above where Sophia typically worked, Ethan Blackwell commanded an empire. At 35, he had transformed his father's modest investment firm into Blackwell Enterprises, a diversified global powerhouse. His reputation for brilliance was matched only by rumors of his ruthlessness. The business pages called him the Wolf of Wall Street Do, a moniker he neither encouraged nor disputed. Morning light spilled across his penthouse as he completed his daily workout, muscles rippling with each controlled movement. Physical discipline mirrored his mental approach, calculated, intense, driven. After a shower in his marble bathroom, he dressed with practiced efficiency, custom suit, platinum cufflinks, Italian leather shoes. His reflection showed a man in his prime, 6 feet of confident authority with piercing blue eyes that missed nothing and revealed less. "Your 8 a.m. called to cancel," his assistant informed him as he entered his office. "And the board wants to move tomorrow's meeting to discuss the Munich acquisition." Ethan nodded, already scanning market reports on his tablet. "Tell them that's fine, and have legal send me the revised contract for the Singapore property." Business flowed through his veins more naturally than blood, every decision calculated, every risk measured. He had built walls around himself so impenetrable that few remembered the young man who'd once written poetry and dreamed of more than wealth. Power had become both his shield and his prison. Women came easily to him, too easily. They offered themselves without reservation, drawn to his wealth, his influence, his undeniable physical allure. He took what was offered, satisfying physical needs with skilled efficiency, but never allowing anyone close enough to touch his heart. Sex was a release, a momentary escape from the loneliness that haunted him behind closed doors. His last relationship had ended precisely as he'd designed it, with a generous parting gift and mutual understanding that passion without commitment had run its course. Natalia had been perfect on paper, beautiful, sophisticated, connected. Yet even in their most intimate moments he had remained somehow untouched, a part of himself locked away. "Mr. Blackwell, your mother called again," his assistant mentioned cautiously. "Tell her I'll call back this weekend," he replied, knowing he probably wouldn't. Their relationship had fractured years ago when he chose to rebuild the company rather than follow her wishes to sell after his father's death. The estrangement added another brick to the wall surrounding his heart. The irony wasn't lost on him, that a man who could buy anything remained fundamentally unfulfilled. The penthouse felt empty despite its perfect design. The applause at industry events rang hollow. The women who shared his bed left no imprint on his soul. "Is there anything else?" he asked his assistant, who hesitated before answering. "The charity gala next month. The Children's Hospital is hoping you'll attend personally rather than just sending a donation." Ethan frowned. Public appearances drained him, the constant performance exhausting. "I'll think about it," he said, which they both knew meant no. As evening descended on the city, Sophia finished her shift on the 32nd floor, 8 levels below where Ethan was working late. Neither knew the other existed. Neither could imagine how a chance encounter would shatter the carefully constructed boundaries of their separate worlds. Their lives were perfect opposites: privilege versus struggle, abundance versus scarcity, emotional isolation versus yearning for connection. Yet beneath these differences lay surprising similarities. Both were survivors. Both wore masks of their own making. Both protected vulnerabilities hidden from the world's judgment. The universe often brings together souls that need each other most, even when they believe they need no one. Sometimes it takes a storm to clear the path between two hearts that didn't know they were searching. And that night, as dark clouds gathered over Manhattan, the weather forecast predicted only rain, not the collision of two lives that would never be the same again. The weather forecast had predicted light showers, but the skies over Manhattan had different plans. By 9 p.m., rain slashed sideways through the canyons between skyscrapers, driven by winds that bent trees and turned umbrellas into useless origami. Lightning split the darkness, followed by thunder that rattled windows in their frames. Sophia had stayed late, covering for a coworker with a sick child. The overtime pay would help with next month's rent. As she finished emptying the last trash bin on the 35th floor, the building seemed to empty of all life except security guards and fellow cleaning staff scattered throughout the massive structure. "You heading out now?" asked Miguel, the night security guard at the elevator bank. "It's horrible out there." "Don't have much choice," Sophia replied with a small smile. "My apartment isn't going to walk to me." Miguel frowned. "At least take this," he offered, handing her a large black umbrella from the Lost and Found. "Been here for months. Nobody's coming back for it." Grateful, Sophia tucked it under her arm and rode down to the lobby. Through the glass doors she could see sheets of rain illuminated by streetlights. Taking a deep breath, she pushed through the revolving door into the deluge. The umbrella lasted precisely 3 blocks before a violent gust turned it inside out, rendering it useless. Sophia cursed under her breath, ducking into a recessed doorway to catch her breath. Her uniform was already soaked through, her thin jacket offering minimal protection. 6 more blocks to the subway station felt impossible in these conditions. She waited for a break in the downpour, but the rain only intensified. Water pooled around her feet, rising with alarming speed as storm drains backed up. When it reached her ankles, she realized she couldn't stay put. Stepping back into the storm, she kept her head down and pressed forward, barely noticing the headlights approaching until a wave of water crashed over her as a car hit a massive puddle at speed. "Perfect," she muttered, now completely drenched and shivering. Her indignation turned to surprise when brake lights flashed red and the vehicle, an expensive black sedan, reversed toward her. "I'm so sorry about that," came a deep voice. "Are you all right?" Sophia was about to respond with something less than polite when lightning flashed, illuminating his features. Strong jawline, intense eyes, an expression of genuine concern rather than the dismissive pity she was accustomed to receiving. Her prepared retort died on her lips. "I'm fine," she managed, water dripping from her eyelashes. "Just got a little wetter than I already was." "Let me give you a ride," he offered. "It's the least I can do." Every warning bell from her childhood rang in her head. Never get into cars with strangers. But another look at his face, combined with a fierce gust of wind that nearly knocked her off her feet, made the decision for her. "Thank you," she said, hurrying around to the passenger side. As she slid into the warm interior, the scent of expensive leather and subtle cologne surrounded her. The contrast between her sodden state and the car's pristine condition made her self-conscious. "I'm soaking your seat," she apologized. "It will dry," he replied simply, putting the car in drive. "Where are you headed?" She hesitated before giving the cross streets near her apartment building, acutely aware of how different his world must be from the neighborhood where she lived. "I'm Sophia," she offered, breaking a moment of silence. "Ethan," he responded, with a brief glance that seemed to take in every detail of her appearance. The windshield wipers worked furiously against the downpour, creating a hypnotic rhythm as they drove. Sophia stole glances at his profile, the confident set of his shoulders, the way his hands rested on the steering wheel with casual authority, the expensive watch glinting on his wrist. Everything about him spoke of wealth and power. "You work at Blackwell Tower?" he asked, noticing her uniform. "I clean there," she answered, straightforward about her position. "Night shift, usually. You?" A flicker of something crossed his face. Amusement, perhaps. "I work there, too." Something in his tone suggested more than he was saying, but Sophia didn't press. The circles they moved in would hardly overlap in a building that housed thousands of employees across dozens of companies. As they approached her neighborhood, the streets became narrower, the buildings more weathered. Potholes sent jarring bumps through the luxury vehicle, making it seem even more out of place. "Just up here on the right," Sophia directed, pointing to a brick building with peeling paint and security bars on the lower windows. Ethan pulled to the curb, frowning as he surveyed the environment. The street was partially flooded, water rising rapidly around parked cars. "Is that your building?" he asked, nodding toward her apartment complex. He turned to face her fully for the first time. "The basement of that building is going to flood, if it hasn't already. The whole block looks vulnerable." As if confirming his assessment, a nearby transformer exploded in a shower of blue sparks, plunging the street into darkness. Screams and shouts echoed from various buildings, as emergency lights flickered on in some windows while others remained dark. "Do you have somewhere else you can go tonight?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. Sophia's mind raced through her limited options. No family, friends who lived in similarly precarious buildings. A shelter would be overcrowded on a night like this. "I'll figure something out," she said with more confidence than she felt. Their eyes met in the dim light of the car's interior. For a moment, something electric passed between them that had nothing to do with the storm raging outside. "Listen," Ethan said, his voice dropping slightly. "I have a guest room. You're welcome to stay there until the storm passes, and you can check on your apartment." The offer hung between them, loaded with implications neither could fully articulate. Sophia weighed her options rapidly. The risk of accepting versus the certainty of a flooded apartment and a night of seeking shelter in increasingly dangerous conditions. "Why would you help me?" she asked directly. "You don't know me, because I can," he answered simply. "And no one should have to battle this storm alone if they don't have to." Another transformer blew nearby, emphasizing his point. Water was now visibly flowing down the street like a river. "Okay," she decided. "Thank you." He nodded once and pulled away from the curb, navigating carefully through rapidly deepening water. As they left her neighborhood behind, Sophia felt a strange mix of relief and apprehension. She was putting her trust in a complete stranger, a wealthy, powerful stranger who had no reason to help her beyond basic human decency. "I should warn you," she said, breaking the silence. "I'm completely soaked. Your guest room might never recover." His laugh was unexpected, warm and genuine, transforming his serious features. "I think we can manage that problem." 20 minutes later, they pulled into an underground garage beneath one of Manhattan's most exclusive residential buildings. The valet who approached did a double take at Sophia's bedraggled appearance but maintained professional composure as Ethan handed over the keys. "Good evening, Mr. Blackwell," the valet said with deference. Sophia froze, the name registering with shocking clarity. Blackwell, as in Blackwell Tower, as in Blackwell Enterprises. She wasn't riding with some random businessman. She had just accepted an invitation to the home of one of the most powerful men in New York. Ethan noticed her reaction but said nothing as he guided her toward a private elevator that required both a keycard and fingerprint scan. As they ascended, Sophia's heart raced. What had she gotten herself into? The elevator opened directly into his penthouse, a sprawling expanse of glass and steel that seemed to float above the city. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the storm in all its fury, lightning illuminating rain-slick skyscrapers that appeared close enough to touch. "This is..." Sophia struggled to find words that wouldn't sound naive. "Home," Ethan finished for her, though something in his tone suggested the word held complications for him too. "Let me show you where you can get cleaned up." He led her through the apartment to a guest suite larger than her entire apartment. The bathroom featured a shower with multiple heads, a deep soaking tub, and heated marble floors. "I'll find you something dry to wear," he said, disappearing momentarily before returning with a soft t-shirt and sweatpants. "These will be too big, but they're better than what you have on." "Thank you," Sophia said, suddenly shy. "For everything, take your time," he replied. "I'll make us something to eat." Alone in the luxurious bathroom, Sophia peeled off her wet clothes with shaking hands. The situation felt unreal, like she had stepped into someone else's life by accident. The hot water of the shower was heavenly, washing away the chill that had settled into her bones. As steam filled the room, she tried to process the night's events. How had she ended up in the penthouse of Ethan Blackwell? What twist of fate had placed her in his path tonight of all nights? And what would happen when morning came? Can you feel the tension building between these two strangers brought together by chance? What would you do if you found yourself in Sophia's situation, alone with a powerful, mysterious man during a raging storm? If you're enjoying this unexpected love story, hit that like button right now. Your engagement helps our channel grow and allows us to create more content just like this. Are you curious about what happens next between Sophia and Ethan? Will this night change both their lives forever? Share your predictions in the comments below. Remember to subscribe to Love and Twilights and hit the notification bell so you never miss our weekly uploads of passionate, heart-racing romance stories. Our community loves discussing these tales of desire and connection. Become part of the conversation. Now, let's continue with this captivating story and discover what happens when worlds collide behind closed doors. Wrapped in Ethan's borrowed clothes, Sophia padded barefoot from the guest bathroom. The soft t-shirt hung loosely on her frame, slipping off one shoulder. The sweatpants required a tight roll at the waist to keep from sliding down her hips. Her damp hair fell in loose waves around her face, freshly washed and smelling of expensive shampoo. The penthouse was eerily quiet compared to the chaos of the storm. She followed the scent of food to the kitchen, where she found Ethan stirring something on the stove. He had changed, too, into black loungewear that looked casual yet somehow still elegant on his powerful frame. "Feel better?" he asked, glancing up. "Much," she replied, suddenly self-conscious. Without her uniform, she felt exposed, not just physically but emotionally. The uniform had been armor, a clear marker of her position in the world. Without it, standing in his clothes in his home, the boundaries between them blurred. "I hope pasta is okay," he said, nodding toward the stove. "It's one of the few things I can make without disaster." The admission surprised her, a small vulnerability from a man whose life seemed perfectly controlled. "A billionaire CEO who cooks his own pasta. I'm shocked." His eyes met hers, one eyebrow raised. "So you figured it out. The valet calling you Mr. Blackwell was a significant clue," she replied with a small smile. "Plus, I clean your company's offices 5 nights a week. I've seen your portrait in the lobby." He nodded, a hint of amusement crossing his features. "Fair enough." He gestured toward the kitchen island. "Have a seat. Wine, please." He poured 2 glasses of red wine, sliding one across the counter to her before returning to the pasta. Sophia took a sip, the rich flavor coating her tongue. Not that she was an expert, but she suspected the bottle cost more than she made in a day. "You're taking this remarkably well," Ethan commented as he drained the pasta. "Taking what well?" Being stranded in a stranger's penthouse during a historic storm, he transferred the pasta to a serving bowl, adding a sauce that smelled of garlic and herbs. Sophia shrugged. "I've weathered worse storms than this, literal and metaphorical." Something in her tone made him look up, studying her with newfound interest. "I believe you have." Their eyes held for a moment too long before he broke the contact, focusing on plating their meal. Silence settled between them as they moved to a dining table positioned near the windows. Lightning continued to flash across the sky, illuminating the cityscape in brief, brilliant bursts. "So," Sophia said, twirling pasta around her fork. "You own the building I clean. Should I be concerned about job security after seeing how the boss lives?" Ethan's laugh was genuine. "Your job is perfectly safe, although—" He paused, considering her. "Something tells me you're destined for more than night shifts with a mop." "Your eyes," he replied without hesitation. "They see everything, assess everything. You've been cataloging details since you walked in, not with envy but with analysis. That's rare." Heat crept up her cheeks at being so easily read. Force of habit. "When you grow up with nothing, you learn to observe everything. Where did you grow up?" he asked, refilling their wine glasses. "Everywhere and nowhere," she answered. "Foster care from 12 to 18. Before that, wherever my mother could afford rent for a few months at a time." Ethan nodded, not offering pity, which she appreciated. "And now you clean offices at night and— what? What does Sophia do when she's not working?" "Sketches, reads, takes online courses when I can afford them." She hesitated before adding, "Dreams of art school, eventually." You're an artist? I try to be, she said, suddenly feeling vulnerable. It's probably foolish. Passion is never foolish, he countered with unexpected intensity. What medium? Charcoal, mostly. Some watercolors when I can afford supplies. Their conversation flowed with surprising ease, two strangers finding unexpected common ground. He told her about building his company, the pressure of living up to his father's legacy while forging his own path. She shared stories of resilience, of finding beauty in unlikely places, of maintaining hope when reality offered little reason for it. As they moved to the living room with fresh glasses of wine, the storm continued its assault on the city. The power flickered several times but held, likely thanks to the building's backup generators. Thank you for rescuing me tonight, Sophia said, settling onto the plush sofa. I can't imagine what my apartment looks like right now. I'm glad I was in the right place at the right time, Ethan replied, sitting beside her, close but not touching. Though I admit, picking up beautiful women during natural disasters isn't my usual Friday night activity. The compliment lingered between them, shifting the atmosphere. Sophia tucked her legs beneath her, angling her body toward him. And what is your usual Friday night activity, Mr. Blackwell? Work, he admitted with a wry smile. Endless work, the curse of success, the curse of never feeling like it's enough, he corrected, his expression suddenly serious. You build and build, acquire and expand, but the goalpost keeps moving. What would be enough? She asked softly. The question seemed to catch him off guard. He stared into his wine glass as if it might contain the answer. I don't know anymore. Lightning flashed, illuminating his profile, strong jaw tensed, eyes distant. In that moment, she saw beyond the powerful CEO to the man beneath, carrying burdens invisible to the world that worshipped his success. Without thinking, she reached out, her fingers lightly touching his hand. Thank you for sharing that with me. His eyes locked with hers, intensity radiating from him in waves. The air between them seemed to charge with electricity that had nothing to do with the storm outside. His gaze dropped to her lips, then back to her eyes, a question in his expression. Sophia, he said, his voice lower than before, I find myself wanting to kiss you, which is completely inappropriate given the circumstances. Her heart raced, desire pooling low in her belly. Why inappropriate? You're in a vulnerable position. You're in my home because of a crisis. I don't want you to feel obligated or... Ethan, she interrupted, shifting closer. I've spent my life making careful choices with very few options. Tonight, I have a choice I actually want to make. Kiss me. He hesitated only a moment before cupping her face with one hand, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. The touch was reverent, almost cautious, so at odds with the powerful man who commanded an empire. When his lips finally met hers, the contact was gentle, questioning. Sophia leaned into the kiss, her hand resting on his chest where she could feel his heartbeat quicken. The kiss deepened, his restraint gradually melting as she responded with increasing ardor. His hand slid into her hair, cradling the back of her head, as his tongue teased the seam of her lips, requesting entry she willingly granted. The world narrowed to points of contact, his hand in her hair, his lips on hers, the heat of his body as she pressed closer. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing heavily. You taste like wine and possibilities, he murmured, his forehead resting against hers. She smiled, her fingers tracing the strong line of his jaw. Is that a good thing? The best thing, he assured her, capturing her lips again. This kiss held nothing back. It was hunger and need and discovery all at once. His arms wrapped around her, drawing her onto his lap until she straddled him, the position bringing their bodies flush against each other. Through the thin material of their clothes, she could feel his arousal, the evidence of his desire making her gasp against his mouth. His hand slid under the borrowed t-shirt, caressing the bare skin of her back with warm, slightly calloused fingers. Every touch sent shivers of pleasure cascading through her body, awakening nerves she hadn't known existed. Sophia, he breathed against her neck, placing hot, open-mouthed kisses along the sensitive skin. Tell me to stop, and I will... Don't stop, she whispered, her head falling back to give him better access. Please don't stop. His hands moved higher beneath the shirt, brushing the sides of her breasts with exquisite restraint. Are you sure? We barely know each other. Sophia pulled back slightly, framing his face with her hands, forcing him to meet her gaze. I know enough. I know you're kind beneath that powerful exterior. I know you see me, really see me, not just what I do, where I come from. And I know that I want you, Ethan Blackwell, in a way I've never wanted anyone before. The confession hung between them, heavy with implication. His eyes darkened, pupils dilating with desire. "I should take you to bed properly," he said, his voice rough with restraint. "Not here on the sofa like we can't wait." "Maybe we can't," she suggested, rolling her hips against him and delighting in his sharp intake of breath. In one fluid motion he stood, lifting her with him. Her legs wrapped around his waist as he carried her through the penthouse to his bedroom, a masculine space dominated by a massive bed with dark linens. He laid her down with unexpected gentleness, his body covering hers as they sank into the mattress. "I need to tell you something," she whispered, as his lips traced a path along her collarbone. I've never," he stilled, raising his head to look at her. "You're a virgin?" She nodded, suddenly afraid he would pull away. Instead, his expression softened, filled with something that looked remarkably like awe. "Are you sure you want your first time to be with me?" he asked, brushing hair from her face with tender fingers. "I've never been more sure of anything," she answered truthfully. His kiss in response was different, deeper, more reverent. "Then I'll make it good for you," he promised against her lips. "So good, Sophia." And as the storm raged outside, they created a different kind of tempest within the sanctuary of his bed, a whirlwind of passion, pleasure, and connection that would forever alter the course of both their lives. Golden morning light filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows, painting warm stripes across tangled sheets. Sophia stirred slowly, her body pleasantly sore in unfamiliar ways. For a disorienting moment, she couldn't place where she was. The silken sheets, the spacious room, the panoramic view of Manhattan glistening after the storm. Then her gaze fell on Ethan, asleep beside her, and everything rushed back. His face in sleep was younger, softer, the perpetual furrow between his brows smoothed away. One arm was still draped possessively across her waist, as if even unconscious, he feared she might disappear. She studied him without the pressure of his intense gaze, the curve of his lips that had traced patterns of fire across her skin, the strong hands that had been so surprisingly gentle with her inexperienced body, the broad chest where she had rested her head as they both caught their breath between passionate explorations. Last night had been... Sophia searched for words adequate to describe the transformation she'd undergone in his arms. Magical felt too fanciful, earth-shattering too melodramatic, though both contained elements of truth. He had taken her through the doorway of womanhood with patient expertise, reading her body's responses with intuitive precision, guiding her through waves of pleasure she hadn't known were possible. "You're staring," Ethan murmured without opening his eyes, his voice morning rough in a way that sent a shiver down her spine. "I'm memorizing," she corrected softly. His eyes opened then, blue and clear and fixed entirely on her. "Memorizing what?" "This moment. You. Everything." She traced a fingertip along his jawline, marveling at her own boldness. "In case it never happens again," he caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. "Why wouldn't it happen again?" Sophia gave him a look that suggested he was being deliberately naive. "Because you're you, and I'm me, and outside this bedroom, we live in completely different realities." "Reality is overrated," he murmured, rolling to hover above her, his weight supported on his forearms. "And right now, this is the only reality I'm interested in." His kiss silenced further protests, reigniting the flame that had consumed them through the night. Their bodies remembered each other now, no hesitation, no uncertainty, just the fluid communication of desire and response. His hands and mouth moved with deliberate intent, drawing gasps and moans from her that filled the sun-drenched room. "Ethan," she breathed as he moved lower, his destination clear. "You don't have to. I want to," he insisted, looking up the length of her body with hunger in his eyes. "I want to taste you, to feel you come apart against my tongue. Let me have this, Sophia." Unable to deny him, or herself, she surrendered to his practiced attentions, her world narrowing to the hot, wet pressure of his mouth and the building tension coiling tight within her. When release came, it crashed through her with stunning intensity, leaving her trembling and vulnerable in its wake. Before she could recover, he was moving up her body, positioning himself between her thighs. "Again," he commanded softly, entering her with a smooth thrust that had her crying out in renewed pleasure. "Give me everything," and she did, holding nothing back as they moved together in the morning light, their bodies slick with sweat, their breaths mingling in kisses that grew increasingly desperate as they chased completion. When they finally collapsed together, sated and breathless, the intimacy between them felt both fragile and profound. "I've never," Ethan began, then stopped, searching for words. Never what? She prompted, her fingers tracing idle patterns on his chest. Connected like this, he admitted, his voice low. Sex has always been just sex. Physical release. This was different. The confession touched something deep within her. For me too, she whispered, though in a very different way. She had given him her physical innocence, but he had given her something equally precious, vulnerability from a man who showed the world only strength. Later, wrapped in his robe, she watched from the kitchen counter as he made coffee, moving with easy confidence through his morning routine. The domesticity of the scene struck her with unexpected force. How natural it felt to be here with him. How quickly they had fallen into a rhythm together. "What are you thinking?" he asked, sliding a mug toward her. "That this feels surreal," she answered honestly. 24 hours ago, I was cleaning offices and worrying about paying my electric bill. Now I'm having coffee in a billionaire's kitchen after a night that... She blushed, unable to finish the thought. "After a night that changed everything?" he suggested, his eyes intent on her face. "Did it?" she challenged softly. "Change everything?" He set down his coffee and moved around the counter, pulling her to her feet and into his arms. "Yes," he said simply. "Whether we wanted it to or not." His phone chimed with an incoming call, the sound jarring in the intimate bubble they had created. Glancing at the screen, he frowned. "I need to take this. It's about the flood damage downtown." As he stepped away to answer, reality began seeping back into their sanctuary. Sophia hugged the robe tighter around herself, suddenly aware of the vast gulf between their worlds. In his bedroom, skin to skin, those differences had seemed inconsequential. In the cold light of day, they loomed large and imposing. His conversation was brief but revealed the power he wielded. Decisions made with a few words, resources mobilized with simple commands. When he returned to her, his expression had shifted subtly, the businessman resurfacing through the lover. "I need to go into the office," he said, regret evident in his tone. "There's substantial damage to several properties, and the emergency response team needs direction." Sophia nodded, pushing aside disappointment. "Of course. I should check on my apartment anyway, see what's salvageable." "Let me send someone with you," he offered immediately. "I have a team handling residential properties in affected areas. They can assess the damage, start repairs." "Ethan," she interrupted gently, "I appreciate the offer, but I need to handle this myself. I can't become your charity project." His expression hardened slightly. "Is that what you think last night was? Charity?" "No," she assured him quickly. "Last night was beautiful, honest. But this morning, I need to go back to my life, messy as it might be right now." Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed by reluctant acceptance. "At least let me have a car take you. And will you have dinner with me tonight? My place or anywhere you choose." The invitation hung between them, not just for dinner, but for continuation, for exploration of whatever had ignited between them. "Yes," she said after a moment's consideration. "Dinner would be nice." Relief washed over his features. He pulled her close for a kiss that promised much more to come. "I'll send a car whenever you're ready. Just call this number." He programmed his private line into her phone. An hour later, freshly dressed in clothes he'd had delivered to the penthouse, Sophia stood in front of her apartment building. The damage was extensive. Ground floor completely flooded, power still out, water damage seeping up the walls. A notice on the door informed residents the building was temporarily uninhabitable. Her apartment on the second floor had fared better than most, but water stains spread across her ceiling, and the persistent dripping into strategically placed buckets confirmed she wouldn't be sleeping there any time soon. She packed what she could into a small suitcase, clothes, her art supplies, the few mementos she couldn't bear to lose. As she emerged from the building, the black car Ethan had sent still waited patiently. The driver helped load her suitcase, then turned to her expectantly. "Where to, miss?" The question carried more weight than the driver could possibly know. Where to, indeed? She could go to a friend's place, impose on their already crowded apartment. She could find a cheap hotel until insurance came through. Or, "Just drive for now," she said, sliding into the back seat. "I need to make a call." With trembling fingers, she dialed the number Ethan had given her. He answered on the first ring. "Sophia, is everything okay?" "My apartment's uninhabitable," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "Water damage, no power, the whole building's been evacuated." A beat of silence followed. "Come back to the penthouse," he said, his tone making it neither a command nor a question, but something in between. "Stay as long as you need." "Ethan, I can't just—" "You can," he interrupted gently. "You will. Unless you have somewhere else you'd prefer to go? She closed her eyes, weighing pride against practicality, independence against connection. No, she admitted finally. I don't have anywhere else I'd prefer to go. Then it's settled, he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. I'll be in meetings most of the day, but Maria, my housekeeper, will get you settled. I should be home by 7. Don't thank me yet, he replied, his voice dropping to that intimate register that made her pulse quicken. I have plans for you tonight that might make you reconsider your gratitude. Heat bloomed in her cheeks at the promise in his tone. 7 o'clock then. 7 o'clock, he confirmed. And Sophia? Last night was just the beginning. As she ended the call and directed the driver to Ethan's building, Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that she was crossing a threshold from which there would be no return. Her life as she had known it, practical, predictable, confined by limited means, was already receding in the rearview mirror. Ahead lay uncharted territory, the world of Ethan Blackwell, with all its privileges and complications. A world she had only glimpsed through windows she cleaned, never imagining she would be invited inside. A world where her heart, not just her body, might be at risk. What would you do in Sophia's position? Would you take the leap into Ethan's world, knowing all the complications it might bring? Or would you hold on to your independence, even if it meant walking away from such intense connection? Hit that like button if you've ever had to choose between your head and your heart. Your engagement helps our channel bring you more stories that explore these complex emotional dilemmas. The passion between Sophia and Ethan is undeniable, but will their different worlds eventually tear them apart? What challenges await them beyond the bedroom? Share your predictions in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips for daily uploads of passionate, emotional stories that explore the complexities of love and desire. Join our beautiful family of romance enthusiasts who live for these heart-racing tales. Now let's continue with Sophia and Ethan's journey as they navigate the complexities of their budding relationship. Maria welcomes Sophia to the penthouse with professional warmth, showing no surprise at her arrival or curiosity about her status. Mr. Blackwell called ahead. I've prepared the guest suite for you, she explained, leading Sophia past the room where she'd initially changed the night before. This suite was even more luxurious, a spacious bedroom connected to a sitting area and private bathroom, all decorated in soothing blues and grays. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered the same spectacular city views as the master bedroom, though from a different angle. Please make yourself comfortable, Maria continued. Mr. Blackwell suggested you might need assistance replacing items lost in the flood. I can arrange for shopping services or transportation if you prefer to select things yourself. The casual offer of such assistance, as if replacing an entire wardrobe were as simple as ordering takeout, highlighted the gulf between Ethan's reality and her own. Sophia placed her small suitcase on the luggage rack, acutely aware of how little she had salvaged. Thank you, but what I have will be fine for now, she said, unwilling to accept more charity than shelter already represented. Maria nodded, respecting her boundaries. Lunch will be ready at noon. Is there anything specific you'd prefer for dinner? Mr. Blackwell mentioned he'd be joining you at 7. Whatever you normally prepare would be wonderful, Sophia replied, overwhelmed by the concept of having meal preferences catered to. Left alone, she explored her temporary sanctuary, running fingertips over luxurious fabrics and examining tasteful artwork that probably cost more than she earned in a year. The bathroom contained every imaginable toiletry, arranged with military precision. The closet, though empty, was larger than her entire bathroom at home. Home. The word struck her with unexpected force. Would she ever return to her apartment? Should she? The flood had destroyed her physical space, but Ethan had demolished something more fundamental. Her acceptance of limitations, her careful management of modest expectations. After unpacking her meager belongings, she settled at the desk by the window, pulling out her sketchbook. Drawing had always centered her, providing escape and clarity in equal measure. Her hand moved almost without conscious direction, capturing the dramatic skyline, then shifting to the memory of Ethan's face in sleep, vulnerable, unguarded, beautiful. Hours passed in creative absorption. A gentle knock announced lunch, which she took on the terrace, enjoying the post-storm breeze and sunshine. Afterward, she found herself drawn to Ethan's library, walls of books reaching to the ceiling, interrupted only by more windows and comfortable reading nooks. She selected a volume of poetry, settled into a leather chair, and lost herself in verse until her phone chimed with an incoming message. Ethan, meeting running late. Still on for 7. Sophia, yes. I'm enjoying your library. Ethan, make yourself at home. Everything I have is yours while you're there. Sophia, dangerous offer. I might take your first edition Hemingway. Ethan, take it. Take anything. Just be there when I get home. The last message made her heart flutter. Be there when I get home. The casual intimacy of it, the assumption of belonging, was both thrilling and terrifying. At 6, she retreated to her suite to prepare for dinner. The shower pressure was divine, the provided toiletries luxurious against her skin. She dressed in her best salvaged outfit, a simple black dress that hugged her curves without being overtly sexy. Her makeup was minimal, her hair loose around her shoulders. Precisely at 7, she heard the elevator doors open, followed by Ethan's voice speaking to Maria. Taking a deep breath, she left the guest suite and walked toward the sound. He stood in the entryway, still in conversation with the housekeeper, his back to Sophia. Even from behind, power radiated from him, in the set of his shoulders, the confident stance, the bespoke suit that fit his athletic frame to perfection. When he turned and saw her, his entire demeanor softened, his professional mask slipping away to reveal the man she'd glimpsed in his most intimate moments. Sophia, he said, her name a caress on his lips. Hello, Ethan. Maria discreetly disappeared, leaving them alone in the foyer. For a heartbeat neither moved, the air between them charged with anticipation. Then Ethan closed the distance in 3 long strides, his hands cupping her face as his mouth claimed hers in a kiss that spoke of hours of restraint and building hunger. I've been thinking about doing that all day, he murmured against her lips when they finally broke apart. Just that? She teased, emboldened by the naked desire in his eyes. His laugh was low and promising. Oh, I've been thinking about much more than that. But dinner first. I promised Maria. Dinner was served on the terrace, the city lights creating a backdrop of twinkling stars below them as night descended. The food was exquisite, the wine perfectly paired, the conversation flowing as naturally as it had the night before. But beneath the casual exchange ran an electric current of awareness, of anticipation for what would follow. How was your day? Sophia asked, watching him over the rim of her wine glass. Challenging, he admitted. The storm damage is extensive. We're coordinating relief efforts for several neighborhoods, including yours. Is that standard practice for Blackwell Enterprises? Disaster relief? His expression turned thoughtful. Not historically, no. But seeing your building, understanding what people lost, it seemed like the right thing to do. Did meeting me change your perspective? She asked boldly. You changed everything, he said simply. Made it personal rather than theoretical. Put faces to statistics. The admission touched her deeply. That's significant, more than you know. He reached across the table, taking her hand. My board thinks I've lost my mind, diverting resources to areas with limited return potential. And what do you think? I think I'm finally using my power for something meaningful. His thumb traced circles on her palm, sending shivers up her arm. Enough about work. Did you explore today? She told him about the library, the poetry she discovered, the sketches she'd drawn. He listened with genuine interest, asking questions that showed he valued her thoughts, her creative perspective. I'd like to see your art sometime, he said as they moved to the living room with fresh glasses of wine. It's nothing special, she demurred. I doubt that very much. He settled beside her on the sofa, closer than propriety would dictate. You see the world in ways I'm only beginning to understand. His phone buzzed insistently in his pocket. With an apologetic glance, he checked the screen. I need to take this. It's Tokyo. They're just starting their day. Sophia nodded, trying to hide her disappointment, as he stepped onto the terrace for privacy. Through the glass doors, she could see his expression harden into the mask of corporate authority, his gestures becoming more controlled, decisive. This was the Ethan. Blackwell the world knew. The ruthless businessman, the strategic genius, the demanding perfectionist. The call stretched to 30 minutes, then 45. Sophia refilled her wine, browsed the bookshelves, and tried not to feel like an intruder in his real life. When he finally returned, frustration evident in the tightness around his eyes, she offered a sympathetic smile. Trouble in Tokyo? Nothing that can't be managed, he said, though his tone suggested otherwise. I'm sorry about that. Don't be. Your work is important. Not as important as this. He gestured between them. Not as important as you. The words hung in the air, weightier than perhaps he'd intended. Sophia set down her wine glass, moving toward him with newfound purpose. Without speaking, she loosened his tie, her fingers working the expensive silk with deliberate slowness. What are you doing? He asked, his voice dropping to that register that made her insides liquefy. Helping you transition from CEO to Ethan, she replied, sliding the tie free and dropping it onto a nearby chair. The man I spent last night with. The one I want to spend tonight with, too. His eyes darkened as her fingers moved to his shirt buttons. Sophia. Unless you have more calls to make? She challenged softly, pausing at the third button. His answer was to capture her wrists, halting her progress. For a moment, she feared she'd misread the situation, crossed a line. Then he spun her around, pulling her back against his chest, his lips finding the sensitive spot below her ear that he'd discovered the night before. No more calls, he promised, his hands sliding down her sides to grip her hips. No more interruptions, just you and me. He guided her through the penthouse to his bedroom, their progress slowed by frequent stops to kiss, to touch, to remove another piece of clothing. By the time they crossed the threshold, Sophia's dress was unzipped, Ethan's shirt fully unbuttoned, both of them breathless with desire. What followed was different from their first night together, less careful, more confident, the hesitation of new lovers replaced by the exciting familiarity of bodies that had already learned to please each other. Ethan's controlled exterior cracked completely under her touch, revealing a passionate core that matched her own awakening hunger. Afterward, tangled in sheets in each other, they talked in the intimate darkness, about dreams deferred, about loneliness in crowded rooms, about the masks they wore for different audiences. Sophia confessed her fear of disappearing into his world, losing herself in his larger-than-life existence. Ethan admitted his terror that she would see beyond his wealth and find him lacking, unworthy of her genuine spirit. Their vulnerabilities, once exposed, became bridges rather than barriers. Each confession brought them closer, weaving connections that transcended physical intimacy. Stay, Ethan murmured as sleep began to claim them, not just tonight, not just because of the flood. Stay because I want you here, because I'm better when you're near me. On the edge of consciousness, Sophia made no promises, but she nestled closer into his embrace, allowing herself to imagine a future where such belonging might be possible. Neither of them saw the notification light blinking on Ethan's discarded phone, messages that would shatter their fragile sanctuary when morning came. Morning arrived with harsh clarity. Sunlight streaming through windows Ethan had forgotten to shade the night before. He reached for Sophia, finding only cool sheets where her warmth should have been. Frowning, he sat up, scanning the room for signs of her. "Sophia?" he called, rising to pull on a pair of pajama pants. The sound of her voice drew him to the kitchen where she stood with her back to him, phone pressed to her ear. Her posture was rigid, her free hand gripping the counter with white knuckles. "Yes, I understand," she was saying, her voice carefully controlled. "Thank you for letting me know. I'll figure something out." She ended the call, shoulders slumping as she set the phone down. When she turned and saw Ethan, she attempted a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Everything okay?" he asked, moving closer. "That was my supervisor at Crystal Clear. The company lost their contract with Blackwell Tower after the storm. Budget cuts, they said. Most of the night staff has been let go." She swallowed hard. "Including me." Ethan froze, confusion crossing his features. "That's impossible. I didn't authorize any contract changes. Well, someone did." Her voice held no accusation, just resigned acceptance. He reached for his discarded phone, scrolling through the messages he'd ignored the night before. His expression darkened as he read, jaw tightening visibly. "Lawrence," he muttered. "My CFO. He implemented emergency cost-cutting measures yesterday without consulting me. Claims he couldn't reach me during critical decision windows." The air quotes were evident in his tone. "Can't you reverse it?" Sophia asked. "Of course I can," he replied immediately. "One call and you'll have your job back." She studied him, her expression complex. "And what would that look like, Ethan? The CEO personally reinstating one specific night cleaner while dozens of others remain unemployed? How would that appear to your board, your executives, your other employees?" The implications hung between them, reality intruding on their private sanctuary. Whatever was happening between them couldn't exist in isolation, not when their worlds overlapped in ways that created power imbalances and potential impropriety. "I care about you too," she replied softly, "which is why I can't let you compromise your position or create whispers about favoritism. Your work matters to thousands of people." Before he could respond, his phone buzzed with an incoming call. The screen displayed Vanessa Porter, PR director, accompanied by a text preview, urgent needs statement on courier photos. "You should take that," Sophia said, nodding toward the phone. Reluctantly, he answered, his professional persona sliding into place like armor. "Blackwell speaking." Sophia moved to prepare coffee, giving him privacy while remaining close enough to catch fragments of the conversation. Words like damage control and statement filtered through, along with front page and relationship status. When he ended the call, his expression was grim. "We need to talk." He led her to his home office, opening his laptop to display the morning's New York Courier website. The headline hit like a physical blow. Billionaire's flood relief, Blackwell's night with tower cleaner. Beneath it, photos showed Ethan helping Sophia into his car during the storm, then entering his building together. A second set, obviously taken with a long-range lens, captured them on his terrace the previous evening, his hand holding hers across the dinner table. "How did they," she began, shock rendering her nearly speechless. "Telephoto lenses, building residents selling information, doormen paid for tips, the usual tabloid tactics," he explained with practiced weariness. "I'm used to this. But you shouldn't have to deal with it." Sophia scanned the article, her stomach clenching at phrases like mysterious brunette, considerably younger, and coincidental layoffs at Blackwell Tower raising questions about the nature of their relationship. "They're implying I slept with you to keep my job," she said, voice hollow, then lost it anyway. "It's trash journalism," Ethan dismissed. "No one who matters believes it." "But they will," she countered, "because it makes sense. The powerful man and the desperate woman from the wrong side of town. It's a story people already know how to understand." Ethan's phone erupted with notifications, colleagues, board members, even his mother, all demanding explanations. He silenced it with a sharp gesture. "I need to go into the office," he said, conflict evident in his expression. "Handle this directly. Will you be okay here?" "Actually," Sophia replied, straightening her shoulders, "I think I should go." "Go where?" "My friend Mia offered her couch until my apartment's repaired. I can stay there while I figure out my next steps. It's not just the article," she explained gently. "It's everything this represents. The fundamental imbalance between us. You can make problems disappear with a phone call. I have to live with consequences I can't control. So your solution is to run?" There was hurt beneath his challenge, vulnerability that made her heart ache. "Not running. Regrouping. I need to find my footing independent of you, Ethan. Find a new job on my own merits. Secure housing that doesn't depend on your generosity. I can't become an extension of your wealth or power." He moved toward her, taking her hands in his. "I understand pride. I respect independence. But there's a difference between accepting help and becoming dependent." "Is there?" she challenged softly. "When the power dynamic is this unequal? When I have so little and you have so much?" Before he could respond, his phone rang again, the specific tone he'd assigned to his executive assistant. With visible reluctance, he answered, listening intently before responding with clipped instructions. "Board emergency meeting in 30 minutes, he explained after ending the call. "I have to go." The inevitable intrusion of his responsibilities created a natural breaking point in their conversation, a chance for both to retreat to familiar territory. Sophia stepped back, physically and emotionally. "You focus on your company," she said. "I'll get my things together." "This isn't over," he insisted, catching her arm. "This conversation, what's happening between us, none of it is over unless you want it to be." Their eyes held, volumes communicated without words. "I don't want it to be over," she admitted. "I just need it to be right." His kiss was brief but fierce, a promise and a plea combined. Then he was gone, the CEO once more, leaving Sophia alone with decisions that would shape both their futures. The board meeting was exactly as contentious as Ethan had anticipated. 10 stern faces around the polished table, expressions ranging from concern to barely disguised judgment. "The optics are problematic," Lawrence Henderson, his CFO, stated bluntly. "A relationship with a former employee raises questions about judgment and potential conflicts of interest." "Former employee because of your unauthorized cuts," Ethan countered, his tone deceptively calm. "And my personal life is not board business unless it impacts company performance." "It impacts company perception," interjected Miranda Wells, head of investor relations. She slid a tablet toward him displaying social media reactions. "The public narrative is already forming. Billionaire takes advantage of vulnerable employee during crisis." "That's not what happened," Ethan stated flatly. "Doesn't matter," Miranda replied. "Perception creates reality in the market. We're already seeing hesitation from the Miyazaki group about the Tokyo expansion. Frustration built inside him, the injustice of having something genuine reduced to corporate risk assessment. But he hadn't built his empire by making emotional decisions. "What's the recommended course of action?" he asked, his voice neutral. Miranda glanced at the PR director before responding. "Distance and denial. Release a statement describing Ms. Lane as someone you assisted during the flood crisis, alongside dozens of others. Emphasize the company's broader relief efforts. Imply the photos captured routine humanitarian assistance, nothing personal." "You want me to publicly deny my relationship with her," Ethan clarified, the words tasting bitter on his tongue. "We want you to prioritize the 15,000 employees and millions in shareholder value that depend on Blackwell's reputation," Lawrence corrected. "Your dalliance isn't worth the risk to all those people." Ethan stood, buttoning his jacket with deliberate calmness that belied the storm within. "I'll consider your recommendations." Meeting adjourned, he retreated to his office, staring out at the city below, the same view he'd shared with Sophia, though from the opposite side of the skyline. The irony wasn't lost on him. From opposite perspectives, they were both seeing the same truth. Their worlds were fundamentally incompatible. Or were they? His phone vibrated with a text from Sophia. Made it to Mia's. "Need some time to think. Please respect that." His thumb hovered over the screen, dozens of responses forming and dissolving in his mind. What could he possibly say to bridge the gulf between their realities? How could he convince her that what they'd discovered together was worth fighting for? In the end, he sent just 3 words: "I miss you." Her response came minutes later: "I miss you too." Not a solution, not a path forward, but an acknowledgement of truth. Whatever obstacles stood between them, the connection remained. As he turned back to the waiting stack of reports and decisions, Ethan found himself contemplating choices he'd never imagined making, about priorities, about power, about the life he'd built, and whether it was truly the one he wanted. For the first time in years, the empire he'd constructed felt less like an achievement and more like a cage. And somewhere across the city, the woman who'd shown him a different kind of freedom was slipping away. Days stretched into a week of separation. Sophia threw herself into rebuilding her life, applying for jobs, checking on her apartment repairs, and sketching compulsively in moments of quiet. Mia's couch was comfortable enough, her friend's company a welcome distraction, but sleep remained elusive. Her body remembered Ethan's touch, her mind replaying their conversations in endless loops. She avoided news sites and social media, unwilling to see what narratives were being constructed around her brief appearance in Ethan's world. Once, passing a newsstand, she glimpsed her own blurry image on a tabloid cover and hurried past, heart pounding. On day 9, she received an unexpected call from a prestigious art supply store in Chelsea. "Ms. Lane, this is Gabrielle from Artist Haven. We received your application and would like you to come in for an interview tomorrow at 10, if that's convenient." Sophia blinked in surprise. "My application?" A pause. "Yes, for the assistant manager position. You submitted your portfolio last week." She hadn't applied there, hadn't even known they were hiring. But opportunity rarely knocked twice. 10 tomorrow works perfectly. Thank you. After ending the call, suspicion bloomed. Had Ethan orchestrated this? Was this his way of fixing her unemployment? The thought both irritated and touched her. Their last text exchange had been 3 days ago, simple checking-in messages that carefully avoided the deeper questions hanging between them. The interview went surprisingly well. The owner, a silver-haired woman named Judith, seemed genuinely impressed by Sophia's portfolio and knowledge of materials. The position offered decent pay, employee discounts on supplies, and potential for advancement. When Sophia directly asked if anyone had recommended her, Judith looked confused. "We found your resume on an employment site. Your experience with inventory management from your cleaning supervisor role caught my attention, and your artwork sealed the deal. Is there a problem?" Relief flooded through her. This was legitimate. Her own skills recognized, not Ethan's influence. No problem at all. "I'm very interested in the position." She left with a job offer and instructions to start the following Monday. The victory felt sweetly earned, a step toward the independence she needed to establish before she could consider a future with Ethan, if such a future was even possible. Across town, Ethan was fighting battles on multiple fronts. The board remained concerned about the cleaner situation, as they insisted on calling it. The Tokyo deal hung in limbo. His mother had left 3 voicemails demanding explanations about that girl in the papers. He had respected Sophia's request for space, limiting himself to brief, non-pressuring texts. Each response from her was like oxygen to a drowning man. Proof she hadn't completely written him off, that possibility still existed. "Find a solution or we move on," Lawrence had advised regarding Sophia, as if she were a corporate problem to resolve rather than a woman who had awakened parts of him long dormant. Ethan had nodded without commitment, then returned to his office to continue the project that had consumed his nights since her departure. Spreadsheets, legal documents, and restructuring plans covered his desk, not for Blackwell Enterprises, but for something entirely new. His private elevator chimed on Friday afternoon, an unexpected sound given his cleared schedule. The doors opened to reveal his mother, Catherine Blackwell, impeccably dressed and radiating disapproval. "You've been avoiding me," she stated, crossing his office with practiced grace to kiss his cheek. "I've been busy," he corrected, gesturing for her to sit. Catherine remained standing, examining him with the penetrating gaze that had intimidated board members and social climbers for decades. "You look terrible," she pronounced. "This girl has you completely off balance. Her name is Sophia," he said quietly. "And yes, she's affected me. That's not necessarily bad." His mother's eyebrow arched. "The board thinks otherwise. Richard Harmon called me, concerned about your focus." "Richard should mind his own business," Ethan replied, irritation flaring. "And so should you, Mother." Rather than bristling at his tone, Catherine studied him more intently. "You're serious about her," she realized, surprise evident in her voice. "This isn't one of your usual arrangements." "No," he confirmed. "It's not." Catherine finally sat, her expression softening marginally. "Tell me about her. Not what the papers say, what you see in her." The request surprised him. His mother had never shown interest in his romantic life beyond ensuring his partners were socially appropriate. He searched her face for judgment or manipulation, finding only genuine curiosity. "She sees me," he said simply. "Not Blackwell Enterprises, not the family legacy, just me. And she shows me the world through different eyes. Eyes that find beauty and possibility where I've only seen problems to solve or assets to acquire." "And she's suitable?" Catherine pressed. "If you mean is she from our social circle, has the right credentials, knows which fork to use?" "No." He leaned forward. "But she's more genuine than anyone I've met in those circles. More talented, more resilient." Catherine considered this, fingers tapping thoughtfully on her purse. "Your father would say you're thinking with the wrong organ." Ethan laughed despite himself. "Probably, but he also taught me to recognize value where others miss it." "True enough." She stood, decision apparently made. "Bring her to dinner. Sunday at the house. I should meet this woman who's turned my pragmatic son into a romantic." After she left, Ethan sat motionless, processing the unexpected turn. His mother's interest could be genuine curiosity or calculated interference. Either way, he'd need to speak with Sophia directly. The time for text messages had passed. He reached for his phone, then hesitated. This conversation shouldn't happen over calls or texts. He needed to see her face, to remember exactly what he was fighting for. Sophia was organizing her meager art supplies when the knock came. Mia had left for her shift at the hospital, leaving Sophia alone in the apartment. Through the peephole, she saw Ethan, impeccably dressed yet somehow disheveled, as though his outer perfection couldn't quite mask inner turmoil. Her heart raced as she opened the door. "Ethan." "Hi," he said, uncharacteristically hesitant. "May I come in?" She stepped back, acutely aware of the contrast between his penthouse and Mia's cramped one-bedroom. He entered carefully, like someone approaching a wild animal they didn't want to frighten. "How did you find me?" she asked. "You mentioned Mia worked at Mount Sinai. There's only one Mia Rodriguez on staff there." He looked apologetic. "I shouldn't have tracked you down, but texts weren't enough anymore." "No," she agreed softly. "They weren't." They stood awkwardly in the small living space, distance between them that had nothing to do with physical proximity. "I got a job," she offered finally, breaking the silence. "Assistant manager at an art supply store in Chelsea. I start Monday." "That's wonderful," he said with genuine warmth. "Did you verify it was legitimate, not something I arranged?" The question surprised her. "I did, actually." "How did you know I'd suspect that?" "Because I know you," he replied simply. "Your independence matters. It should matter." Something in his tone caught her attention. "Have you been working on something? You have that focused look you get." His smile was quick, appreciative of her observation. "I have been. Something that might address the imbalance between us, if you're willing to hear me out." She gestured to the couch, taking a seat and waiting as he settled beside her, close but not touching, respecting the boundaries she'd established. "I've created a new foundation," he began, "separate from Blackwell Enterprises. Emergency housing assistance, educational grants for low-income adults, small business support. Funded with my personal assets, not corporate money." "That's amazing," she said, genuinely impressed. "But what does it have to do with us?" "I want you to run it," he replied, "not as a girlfriend or companion, but as a qualified professional with unique perspective on the communities we'd serve. Proper salary, benefits, your own office and staff." Sophia stared at him, processing the unexpected proposal. "You created a foundation. For me?" "Because of you," he corrected. "Because you helped me see needs I was blind to before. But it's not a gift or a solution to unemployment. It's recognition of what you bring to the table, empathy, insight, practical experience with the issues we'd address." She couldn't deny being tempted. Meaningful work with real impact, using her understanding of struggle to help others overcome similar challenges. But concerns remained. "People would say I got the position because we were involved." "People will always talk," he countered. "The question is whether their opinions matter more than the good you could do, the lives you could change. And what about us, personally? Would I report to you? Would we keep our relationship secret?" Ethan took a deep breath. "That's the second thing I came to discuss. I've restructured my role at Blackwell. I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations, remaining on the board, but appointing a new CEO. I'll focus on long-term strategy and special projects." The revelation stunned her. "You're giving up control of your company because of me." "For myself," he clarified, "and for what might be possible between us. The company became my entire identity after my father died. I built it into something he never imagined, proved myself to everyone who doubted me. But somewhere along the way, I forgot how to be just Ethan." Sophia's throat tightened with emotion. "And who is just Ethan?" His eyes held hers, vulnerability and certainty mingling in their blue depths. "A man who misses the woman who saw him clearly from the beginning. A man who wants to build something with her, not just a foundation or a business, but a life. A shared life, where power and wealth matter less than honesty and connection." "That's a lot to give up," she whispered, reaching to touch his face. "I've missed you," she admitted, the simple truth opening the door to deeper honesty. "But I was afraid of losing myself in your world." "I don't want you to fit into my world," he said, finally bridging the physical distance between them, taking her hands in his. "I want us to create a new one together, equal partners, building something neither of us could imagine alone." In his eyes, she saw not the powerful CEO or the passionate lover, but the man beneath both, seeking connection, offering genuine partnership despite the risks. "One more thing," he added with a hint of his usual confidence. "My mother wants to meet you. Sunday dinner at the family home." Sophia laughed despite herself, the ordinary relationship milestone striking her as absurdly normal amid their extraordinary circumstances. "Meeting the parents already?" "You move fast, Mr. Blackwell." His answering smile was boyish, hopeful. "Only when something matters, Ms. Lane. Only when something matters." She leaned forward, closing the final distance between them. Their lips met in a kiss that felt like coming home, familiar yet new, an ending and beginning wrapped in one perfect moment of connection. The foundation, his company changes, her new job, his mother, all were conversations to continue. But this, the simple recognition of belonging together despite every difference, was the essential truth they'd both been seeking. What a beautiful turning point in their story. Ethan is making profound changes to bridge their worlds, while Sophia maintains her independence and dignity. Do you believe their solution will work? Can they truly build a balanced relationship despite their different backgrounds? If you believe love can transcend social barriers when both people are willing to meet in the middle, hit that like button right now. Your engagement helps our channel bring you more stories with depth, passion, and meaningful connections. How would you feel about meeting the intimidating Catherine Blackwell? Do you think she'll welcome Sophia or create new obstacles? Share your predictions in the comments below. Please don't forget to subscribe to Love and Twilights for daily romance stories. Now, let's follow Sophia and Ethan as they take their first steps into their newly created world together. Sunday arrived with crystal clear skies, as if nature itself had washed away the storm that first brought them together. Sophia stood in Mia's bathroom, scrutinizing her reflection with unusual intensity. She'd chosen a simple navy dress, conservative yet flattering, purchased with her first paycheck from Artist Haven. "You look perfect," Ethan assured her, leaning against the doorframe. "My mother will be impressed." "I'm not dressing to impress her," Sophia replied, though they both knew it wasn't entirely true. "I just want to feel authentic." He crossed to her, hands settling gently on her shoulders. "That's precisely why you'll win her over. Everyone else performs for Catherine Blackwell. You'll be refreshingly real. The drive to the Blackwell family estate in Connecticut filled Sophia with escalating anxiety. The property, when they finally arrived, did nothing to calm her nerves. Acres of manicured grounds surrounding a stately home that had graced architectural magazines. "You grew up here," she whispered as they approached the entrance. "Until college," he confirmed. "Then summers and holidays. It never really felt like home. More like a museum where I happened to sleep." The door opened before they reached it, revealing a tall woman whose resemblance to Ethan was unmistakable. The same piercing blue eyes, the same proud bearing, though her hair was silver rather than his rich brown. "You're late," Catherine observed, though her tone lacked genuine criticism. "Traffic," Ethan replied, leaning to kiss her cheek. "Mother, this is Sophia Lane. Sophia, my mother, Catherine Blackwell." Sophia extended her hand, surprised when Catherine bypassed it to examine her face with keen interest. "So you're the woman who's accomplished what a parade of debutantes, models, and corporate lawyers couldn't—" "Mother," Ethan warned. "It's a compliment, darling," Catherine assured him, before returning her attention to Sophia. "Come in. Let's see if you're as interesting as my son believes." The interrogation began over appetizers, polite but pointed questions about Sophia's background, education, and career aspirations. Catherine listened with unexpected attentiveness, asking follow-up questions that suggested genuine interest rather than mere politeness. "Foster care taught you resilience," she observed when Sophia mentioned her childhood. "That's something money can't buy, though God knows I've watched people try." By the main course, Catherine had shifted to discussing the new foundation. "Ethan tells me you'll be running operations. Ambitious project for someone with no executive experience." "I lack traditional credentials," Sophia acknowledged, meeting the older woman's gaze directly. "But I understand the communities will serve in ways someone with an MBA might not. Theory is valuable, but lived experience brings perspective." Catherine's lips curved slightly. "Well said." She turned to her son. "She doesn't defer unnecessarily. I approve." "I wasn't seeking approval," Ethan replied, though his expression suggested relief. "Of course you were," his mother countered. "You've sought my approval since you were 7. The difference is now it actually matters to you." The observation held such insight that both Ethan and Sophia fell momentarily silent. Catherine used the opportunity to change topics, discussing the foundation's potential impact with surprising enthusiasm. As dessert was served, Catherine fixed Sophia with an evaluating gaze. "My son is making significant changes to his life's trajectory. He claims they're for himself, but we both know you're the catalyst. Does that concern you?" "Yes," Sophia admitted honestly. "I don't want responsibility for his choices." "Good answer," Catherine nodded. "The wrong woman would either deny influence or revel in it. You acknowledge reality while maintaining appropriate boundaries." After dinner, Catherine led them to her study, a warm, book-lined room that revealed more personality than the formal dining space. From a cabinet, she retrieved a small wooden box. "These belonged to Edward's grandmother," she explained, opening the box to reveal a pair of antique sapphire earrings, not as flashy as modern jewelry, but with genuine history and character. She pressed the box into Sophia's hands. "For you, Mrs. Blackwell, I couldn't possibly—" "Catherine," the older woman corrected, "and you can. They match your eyes, and your spirit. Old souls in young settings." She closed Sophia's fingers around the box. "I won't force tradition on you, but I will acknowledge what's clear to anyone with sense. You belong in this family, formal commitments notwithstanding." The gesture moved Sophia deeply, not for the value of the gift, but for the acceptance it represented. "Thank you, Catherine." Later, as they drove back to the city, Sophia's thoughts tumbled over the unexpected day. "She's nothing like I expected," she admitted, the sapphire earrings safely tucked in her purse. "She showed you her real self," Ethan observed. "That's rare. She must see what I see in you." Sophia reached across to take his hand. "And what exactly do you see?" His gaze remained on the road, but his fingers tightened around hers. "Everything I didn't know I was missing." Spring flowed into summer, change blossoming like the city's flowering trees. The Blackwell Foundation for Community Resilience opened its doors in a renovated brownstone, positioned strategically between the worlds it sought to bridge. Sophia's office occupied the front, windows open to the street, a conscious choice to remain connected to the community. Her apartment, finally repaired, became a studio space where she continued her artwork in evening hours after foundation work. Though Ethan's invitation to move into the penthouse remained open, They both recognized the importance of maintaining separate spaces during this transitional period. Independence doesn't threaten connection, Sophia had explained. It strengthens it by making time together a choice rather than a default. The wisdom of this approach revealed itself as their relationship deepened beyond the initial passion that had drawn them together. They established rituals: Wednesday night dinners at neighborhood restaurants, weekend mornings at farmers markets, afternoons where Ethan posed for Sophia's increasingly confident artistic explorations. The media eventually lost interest in their story, finding more scandalous targets as Ethan's reduced public profile and Sophia's legitimate professional role defied salacious narratives. The foundation's success garnered positive attention instead, highlighting the innovative approaches that stemmed from Sophia's unique perspective combined with Ethan's business acumen. "We make a good team," he observed one evening as they reviewed quarterly results in her modest apartment, takeout containers scattered among spreadsheets. "Better than I anticipated." "Did you doubt we would?" she asked, tucking feet beneath her on the couch they barely fit on together. "Not us," he clarified. "The concept, equal partnership between such different people. I've always preferred control. I've noticed," she teased, earning a playful nudge. "But sharing it with you feels natural," he continued. "You challenge me without undermining me. Support without enabling. That's what love does when it's healthy," she replied, the word love still new enough between them to carry special weight. His expression softened at the term. "Speaking of healthy love, I've been meaning to ask you something." Sophia was distracted, making notes on a community program proposal. "Move in with me." She looked up, surprised by the timing rather than the question itself. "We discussed this. My independence is fundamentally important," he finished. "I'm not asking you to become an extension of me or my world. I'm proposing we create a new home together, not my penthouse, somewhere that belongs to both of us equally." The thoughtfulness behind the suggestion touched her deeply. "You'd leave your penthouse, with its perfect view and private elevator, for a home that has you in it every morning and night?" Without hesitation, he took her hands, his expression serious. "I don't need marble countertops or designer furniture. I need the woman who sees beyond all that to the person I really am." Sophia studied him, the man who had transformed from stereotype to soulmate in her eyes. The powerful CEO she'd first encountered still existed, but alongside him had emerged a partner, a listener, a man capable of profound growth. "Yes," she said simply. "Let's find our place, together." The kiss they shared sealed more than an agreement about living arrangements. It affirmed the journey they'd undertaken, from strangers caught in a storm to lovers navigating the complexities of bridging different worlds. Autumn painted the city in warm hues when they finally found their home, a converted loft in a historic building, spacious enough for comfort but modest by Ethan's previous standards. They furnished it together, her artistic eye complementing his preference for functionality, creating a space that reflected their shared vision rather than either's individual past. On moving day, as Sophia arranged her art supplies in the room they designated as her studio, she discovered a package wrapped in simple brown paper. Inside lay a custom-built easel of beautiful dark wood, accompanied by a set of professional-grade supplies she had always coveted but never afforded herself. The card read simply, "For the woman who taught me to see beauty everywhere. All my love, E." Later that evening, as they shared their first meal in their new home, Sophia presented her own gift, a charcoal portrait she'd been working on in secret. It captured Ethan not as the world saw him, but as she did. Strength and vulnerability balanced in perfect harmony, eyes that held both ambition and tenderness, a man fully integrated rather than compartmentalized. "This is how you see me?" he asked, voice thick with emotion. "This is who you are," she corrected gently. "Who you've always been beneath the boardroom persona and the walls you built. The man I fell in love with during one night of passion and discover more deeply every day since." He set the portrait carefully aside before pulling her into his arms. "The storm that brought us together was the luckiest accident of my life." As his lips found hers in a kiss that promised forever, Sophia silently agreed. Their journey hadn't been easy. Crossing boundaries of class, wealth, and experience required constant navigation. But in each other's arms they had found a truth more powerful than any external difference. Love that sees clearly, accepts completely, and transforms gently is the greatest fortune of all. And there we have it. The beautiful end to Sophia and Ethan's passionate journey from strangers to soulmates. Their story reminds us that true connection can bridge any divide when both people are willing to grow, compromise, and see each other's authentic selves. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button right now. Your engagement tells me what kind of content resonates with you and helps our channel reach more romance enthusiasts like yourself. What was your favorite moment in Sophia and Ethan's journey? Was it their passionate first night together, Ethan's decision to restructure his life priorities, Sophia's determination to maintain her independence, or perhaps Catherine's surprising acceptance? Share your thoughts in the comments below. This type of passionate, emotional story is exactly what Love and Twilights delivers every week. If you haven't already subscribed, now is the perfect moment to join our family of romance and love. Click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our daily uploads of steamy, heart-touching romance stories. Thank you for experiencing this journey with us. Until next time, remember that the most beautiful love stories aren't perfect. They're authentic, challenging, and ultimately transformative, just like real love should be.